Hey, everybody. Hello to my friends and partners at Pega from all over the world. Welcome to this edition of the Pega Partner Hour, a monthly webinar aimed at providing Pega partners with the support that they need in the sales, technical, and industry domain. Some quick housekeeping, as always. We'll be recording the session. If you prefer not to be recorded, please feel free to drop from the call, and you're welcome to watch a copy of the recording later. Before we get to today's call, I wanted to remind everyone our next Pega Partner Town Hall is coming up next week. It will take place virtually on September 18th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The All-Stars you see here are going to present on a 2024 wrap-up, a preview of 2025, a blueprint demo, and as always, a live Q&A, just to name a few things that they'll do. You can get yourself registered for this event at the partner portal. That's partners.pega.com/portal/partner-town-hall-series. Maybe you want to check the recording or just take a quick screenshot of that up there. But in any case, we're all looking forward to seeing you all next week. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot express how thrilled I am to introduce today's guest co-host. This individual is not just a leader, but a powerhouse of innovation and vision here at Pega. He's a vice president and the global industry market leader for government, a role that makes him a driving force behind revolutionizing government technology on a global scale. With a wealth of experience and unmatched passion for the public sector transformation, this is someone who's not just shaping the future, he's actually making it happen right before our eyes. Please join me in welcoming the one, the only, the unstoppable Mr. Doug Averill.
Oh, Randy, and ChatGPT couldn't do any better, and maybe that was. Thank you. I appreciate that. And before I take over, I do want to highlight something that maybe not everyone realizes. It was exactly 3 years ago today that one Randy Marcin started with Pega and has made a massive impact. So, Randy, congratulations. If you look outside or look under your seat, there is a free car and there's a balloon drop happening in your living room. So, congratulations. And with that, no, sincerely, I appreciate the time. We do collectively, a One Pega team, do a lot of work to try to communicate all that is going on, and that's what we aim to do today. So for those who don't know, as global industry market leader for government, we really, my team and I, look after our go-to-market strategy, what our messages are, what does it mean to be workflow automation across the globe? I'm very proud of the linking that we do of use cases, success stories, clients and partners to really bring a global perspective to all that is happening in government. So I aim to do that today. This is, my typical approach to these sort of things is I'm not going to fill 60 minutes of content just to fill it. I love to keep it interactive. So fire up those questions, let me know, present some objections. I'm happy to go down any rabbit hole that you want to go down. But I aim to show you, as we close out 2024 calendar and go into 2025, how are we thinking about Pega government across the globe? What is it going to mean for you? So with that, I'll just sort of maybe start at the top. Like, what is it that we cover? What does it look like? And we talk about core markets, and I use these words sort of very carefully and very specifically, but just highlighting, where has our success been? Where is our focus going forward across our product cloud compliance, roadmap investments, our marketing, things like that? It, for the most part, follows sort of this idea of US, UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. But I want to be really, really careful. The big part of our work also happens in Singapore and certainly in France, doing amazing work in Germany and Spain, in Saudi Arabia. But this is if we're sort of drilling in on sort of the bullseye of where you're going to see things coming out. It's largely in these core areas, and we're largely across these three focus subsegments. So what does it mean? World Bank, United Nations, Red Cross, Red Crescent, things like that are non-governmental organizations. Those aren't within the government vertical. We really focus on executive branch, legislative branch, the day-to-day work of interacting with citizens and doing service delivery. What's very, very important, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this as I click through here, is because our workflow automation is largely focused on the biggest, most complex governments and government problems across the globe. Partners are absolutely critical from end to end, from the very beginning conversations with a new or certainly even an existing client, all the way through delivery and servicing. I mean, there's a number of partners who are right at the very front lines of making sure that our government clients are getting the service and support that they need. So we can't do any of this without partners, and the communication around what's working, what's not working is absolutely critical. And a good example of this is, and sort of why I teed up questions and objections, is Pega stays smartest when we know what's happening in the field, what's actually going on day to day, and we can accommodate for that, whether it's changing our roadmap for a product or compliance, or just reorganizing ourselves around a certain problem or thing that may be happening in the field. It's critical that you tell us what's working and what's not working. I know this is a well-worn slide, but just in the spirit of what is Pega going to be, what are we looking at as we go into next year? I'm going to talk a lot in a minute about Blueprint and what the impacts are there. But at its core, Pega Government is really all about workflow automation and AI-powered decisioning across a lot of different areas. So, there had been talk years ago about pre-building and pre-packaging solutions. That's not Pega's focus as we go into next year. That's something that partners, you all can be taking pre-built accelerators, certainly putting things out as PaaS or SaaS offerings. That's really where we want to take workflow automation and hand it off to you within those particular domains and run with that. Pega is all about Pega Government Platform, our cross-vertical applications, care management, certainly collections and things like that, and making sure that we're coming with a productized workflow automation point of view in the market that then clients can talk about, ideate, and turn into solving real-world government problems. We do that across the regular, consistent, multi-channel, situational layer cake, center-out approach. That is absolutely going to continue to be core to how we go to market and how we talk to people in 2025. It's all about reuse and specialization. So if we think about where's the Pega Government Platform or the core platform roadmap going, a lot of how I look at it from the government point of view is, what are we building that are those core features or functions that we can then pull up into individual workflows or pull up into individual domains or problems? So an example of that is maybe how we are enhancing the data model around head of household, definition of household, being able to create simple wizards and workflows about association within those workflows. We could use that within a licensing context, use that within a customer service context for, say, address update or address change and things like that. So we're really working at that core level to make sure feature and function is being built that we can then take to market across these three areas that you see here. And then, of course, the biggest thing for us, and while we are loving what Blueprint can do, that is no doubt very much a game changer. Going to click through that in a little bit. But where we shine is being able to take it from expansion and radiating those additional workflows, winning new business, but really leaning into complex, that we can do things that no one else in the market can do. We're benchmark at scales that no one else can do, that they would dream of. So that really means let's go after those big programs where they exist. Let's partner on those. But if we have someone who's got a quick problem, they've got year-end money, let's move quickly after that. And we know with confidence that if they want to go big and add 100,000 users to the system, that's not going to be a problem.
Hey, Doug, quick
Yeah.
question. As you're touching base on core markets and that, what does it mean to someone to be in a core market versus being outside of a core market? And how are they going to notice? And more importantly, also, what do they do when they're out of market? How do they handle that?
Yeah, so that's really important. No one is out of market. We are passionate about our markets everywhere. when I highlight that, 80% of our footprint is in those core markets, what that means is largely you're going to see the focus of those repeatable stories coming out of that. But again, like I think of the Spanish Ministry of Justice and certainly the great work we're doing in Germany and in Saudi Arabia, some really great stories that you're going to be brought forward. It just means that sort of our day-to-day focus is in those core areas. So there's operationally zero difference between those two. It just is a highlight of sort of where's the money coming from and what is our footprint now.
Thanks, Doug.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, because it's really important that we want to make sure we're chasing strategic business and partnering on the important programs, no matter where they are. So this is another well-worn sign, but I'm going to kind of talk through what this actually means. So, we talk about our domains. I think a lot of people have heard about growth grids and sort of use cases within this. These continue to be really, really good exemplar use cases of how workflow automation gets work done. What I do want to voice over here is just a clarification that we are going to market with a workflow automation platform, PGP, the core platform, CDH, collections, whatever those things are. It's all about getting work done. And everything within this is an example of how we've actually achieved an outcome. It's a storytelling hook that we have together. And I say this very specifically because it's important to me that we are not taking an inside out view of what the customer thinks about us, but in turn, we're really partnering tightly with what their client actually thinks that they need. So a good example of this, and I use this often, is investigative case management. We talk about how we've done investigative case management, but when you actually talk to a client and say, what's your problem? They probably don't think about it day one as investigative case management, and that is totally appropriate. They're talking about their problem, their mission, their funding, their constraints. So having us understand that jointly and then pivoting to, boy, that sounds a lot like this client's problem, or this is how we solve this problem together, is that go-to-market motion. So when you see things like domains, our point of view is those are excellent exemplars of how you can actually describe the power of workflow automation and AI-powered decisioning, but it's certainly not exclusive. Just like those core markets you were just asking me about, Randy, we want to take on a lot of different workflows, and we want to think about the next problem and the next problem. That's where Blueprint is really going to help us accelerate. So it's not exclusive. It's a way to think about what we can do. There is one that's a little different on here, though, and that is enterprise modernization. The enterprise modernization, in our view, is really sort of that end state where you've acquired this platform, you've onboarded it, you've started to enable, you've got partners who are supporting your journey. You've got procurement vehicles in place to be able to buy more workloads and more licenses, and certainly the services that go with that. And now it's a matter of just rating. What's the next workflow? What's the next workflow? And in Pega's view, that's really sort of the more mature state. That's where we want to be, where we're having mature upgrade conversations, where we're coming in with new opportunities to modernize things. And it's less about, well, what technology are we going to use? And, are we going to get that through enterprise architecture, and more, how could we actually do that? Or let's get business involved and start building that and prototyping it. So this is sort of the main one. And this is a slide that I've had the fortune of delivering in a number of different partner sessions throughout the globe this year. And I think it's worth spending some time sort of internalizing what this actually is and what it means. And this is overall the evolving go-to-market motions, as the title says. And this is definitely not anything new, but this is a clarification and really a codification of how we want to be thinking about how we organize, how we partner. And this has kind of happened in bits and pieces and fits and starts, but has really over the last 18 months in Pega, certainly in the government vertical, being more formalized. And the first is this idea of mining workflows. It was what I was talking about in that earlier slide. It's enterprise modernization. It's where we continue to build relationships with government decision makers. And when I say we, I mean us together, building relationships where we're able to influence those procurements up front, typically where we're well known by enterprise architecture and we're appreciated for where we fit in our capabilities, and certainly how those capabilities can augment a partner's ability to bring that to bear, to actually deliver on that. Those are all well understood things. So we've got conversations in flight. We certainly are already building something. We often probably have a number of go lives already. And now it's bringing new innovation, new thinking. Again, it's kind of that year-end money. It is, what do you want to do next year? Let's start thinking about those early. And we're really built trusted advisor relationships in there. The next is a really important, somewhat new motion in the government vertical. I think it's been happening in different areas, but honoring it as a distinct thing is important. And for those who have been paying attention over the last probably 4 or 5 years, you've watched us really focus on these core ministries, departments, and states. Sometimes it probably felt like the exclusion of other opportunities. And what we're really doing is trying to establish our expertise in areas, kind of that mining workflows piece. What's really important, and I know that this is not just a government thing, is we need to build new beachheads, not because there's a lack of addressable market. I mean, there is no lack of total addressable market in government for modernization, but it's because our coaches, our relationships evolve from one department and one program to another, and they're asking us to come in there. And that is a really good way to then extend that relationship together into build new beachheads. So this is where we can start small. It might be larger, but this is really following relationships from one program to another, rallying around it, and then holding that win up, and then going and eventually turning a building beachhead motion into a mining workflow. So I think what we'll have to talk about, and this is very much sort of field driven, this is where you're working with your sales leadership and certainly Randy, you and your peers around what does it mean to build a beachhead? How do we start chasing relationships together into new areas and getting good at that? Because that's something that Pega overall, but Pega government especially, really wants to start doing. And then the last is around formalizing something that feels much more like large scale capture. This is going to be sort of a multi-year journey, but this is acknowledging what, we used to think of a must-win list. These are the deals we've just got to rally around. It is twice a week stand-ups. Where are we evolving? What investment is required? It's essentially, how do you win these large programs? But how do we formalize that? And how do we actually get tighter in what those co-investments look like, whether it be in product, our compliance and cloud footprint, it could be a joint marketing event, some out-of-home advertising, whatever that is that's going to take a multi-year approach to winning really large programs, that's critical. And for me, for the government vertical, that last large-scale capture motion is going to be really important to our growth overall. For a number of years, we were growing, I proudly say, faster than any other vertical in the company. And it was largely because we were winning these big deals. Coming back to that and really formalizing that structure is going to be really important to our joint winning together. And this is where, I think, Randy, I'd say there's probably going to be more questions after this around what does this actually mean?
Yeah.
A lot of this is going to be situational. It's going to be what the account teams want. But what it looks like to me for large scale capture when we've got a mature business later next year, is we've got a solid, well understood list of the most important massive programs that we're going after and a plan to win those. And if any of us can say, what are your top 5, that's what it should mean.
Well, and Doug, on top of that, oftentimes our partners have a sales team that's out there and they have a capture team that's out there, and we're not always bringing them in as one and bring them into our account teams with our partner team and working together. Because when you start talking about large scale capture like that, you've got to look ahead, months and years ahead of time to understand the account. And that's where the whole one Pega idea comes in together, right? We all have to work together to be able to get those. You're not going to stumble across an RFI and throw something over the fence and win that deal that way. Like, it's really an all-in approach that we have to work together on, and we can do that, right? We can put everybody together in a room, be it real or virtual, and make that plan so we win those deals.
Yeah, that's a great clarification, amplification, Randy. So what that actually means, exactly as you said, is we understand what plays you're running. You have confidence that we're running complementary plays. So, we're probably both targeting the same people the same way, but we're going to deliver what probably to them feel like, different types of messages, but they're already tightly coordinated because we know who we need to go after, how we're shaping it. It might mean that our government relations team is synced with your government relations team, and we're having complementary conversations. One clarification, you sort of hit on it, and I failed to mention it. I just want to acknowledge that what capture means to a technology provider like Pega is very different than what capture means to a large SI. We're just a piece of that. But when I use the word capture, I mean that we're formalizing that approach, that it's a multi-year sort of milestone phase gated investment approach to how we're going to win these very large pieces of work together, and then mutually make sure that we're in it together for client health and success. So we're there delivering value for decades to go. So I think that's right on. There's a lot to sort of mature and talk about there, but this is really an exciting formalization of how we think about it.
Yeah, I agree, Doug.
Now the one thing I'm gonna to flex my animation muscles here is okay. So we've all gone through Blueprint. This is and for those who know me, I like to, like most Govies, sort of take a not a wait and see, because I love this our technology. I push hard on it, but how it's going to be adopted is a part where I want to make sure there's a there. Team, there is just Blueprint is totally disruptive in the best possible way. Like truly everything that we do and are doing has to be Blueprint first. And every problem we have, we've got to run through Blueprint because it truly is a game changer. It's not going to be differentiated. We're not going to be the only ones forever that can do this. But holy crap, it is absolutely amazing what it does. And Blueprint is going to be everywhere, continues to be everywhere. And working out what that actually looks like in the field, is an evolution, but it needs to be a part of every conversation. So, in the spirit of that, what does Blueprint actually mean when this motion of mining workflows? Well, it's a great on your laptop conversational tool where you can say, "But that's a really interesting thing. Let's quickly run that through Blueprint." We're having a conversation with a program manager, or maybe someone who's new to the program, and you're having a coffee in the cafeteria because you have a facilities pass. You might be at a coffee shop around the corner. Clearly love coffee. Maybe we'll say it's a beer. But this is where you're flipping it open and you don't even know it's Blueprint, but you are just having conversations around how you can modernize the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's a thing of beauty. When we're talking about building beachheads, it's really about capability awareness. This is where we can say, I was reading about this problem or this large program that you've invited us in to talk about. These are the sort of things that, we do differently. And when you think about building a blueprint in that case, what you can do is circle some of those feature function differentiators I was highlighting before in how we're thinking about Pega government platform and the platform. So, it could be here's something that is a case management tool for your, say, social services caseworkers. We know that it's going to require offline capabilities. Great, let's highlight that as part of the blueprint. Oh, you have a GIS system. Well, this is exactly where you would integrate with this, because what you're doing in that conversation is using Blueprint as a way to drive a really pointed and meaningful conversation with a prospect about joint capabilities. So, you're talking about workflow automation and features and functions that only Pega can. And you're all doing it by kind of layering on your subject matter expertise and your differentiators. That's what that looks like. And large scale captures, you can imagine, because that's going to be sort of a multi-year journey, is it's multifaceted. Blueprint is coming everywhere, from those initial conversations to RFX responses to making sure that the features and functions that we're highlighting in a blueprint is what's required. If this particular client is going to need, IRAP protected cloud, or it's going to need FedRAMP high, or it's going to need Shrems, whatever the next version is, we're seeing that we're using Blueprint to have those conversations. That's where we can really document that. So it really becomes an accelerated discovery tool for the long term, and we're saving and understanding and ultimately helping with the responses and winning the bid. So
Doug,
it is going to be Blueprint. Yeah, Randy.
to add to that, right? I think what happens a lot of times in all walks of business, really, you get good at what you do. You get so good at what you do, you come to think that it's every day because it's every day for you. But there is a major question in the marketplace for Pega, and that question always is, what does Pega do? If they don't know you, they don't know what you do. And when you explain what we do, people start to get it. But the light bulbs I've seen go off when you say, what do we do? Let me show you. Give me a problem you have. Give me a workflow that you need. And you type it into Blueprint and you give them, they see their work. They're like, yeah, that's exactly what we do. And holy cow, you can do this.
Right.
Don't sleep on Blueprint, right? I know we talk a lot about it. I know people feel like, oh, well, maybe it's just this. It's not just this.
Right.
It is the keys to the kingdom right now. And the functionalities we're adding to it are just making it unstoppable in the marketplace. And like you said,
mind-blowing. Yeah, it is absolutely, it kills. And in just within that scenario you just gave, Randy, I think to me the ultimate would be, it wasn't let me show you Pega Gen AI Blueprint. It was let's build this together. You go through it
right?
and the client goes, holy crap, what is this thing? What are we looking at? And now you're sort of getting them hooked. That light bulb, as you said, Randy's going off. You're
Right.
having those discovery conversations rapidly. And it's not about us and it's not about you. It's about that client and what they need and addressing it quickly and getting them to feed to you what their problems are, because we can solve those and we can solve them together.
Yeah, and it puts away the question. It's not even asked anymore. What do we
Right.
do? They just know that's it. That's what they don't ask the question. They know. So I mean, it's a great starting point with people. It's a great midway point, and it's a great close with people. And it really is speeding up the time from first meeting to implementation tremendously. So
Yep.
like, don't sleep on Blueprint.
150%. Yes. Okay. So we had it on here. I think I just wanted to highlight as we kind of now click into the Blueprint itself. A number of changes are coming. Some have already been rolled out. The first that I felt like more of a sort of a commercial change was this idea that you could brand your own Blueprint page. I actually think it's perfect for government because it allows us to actually make them feel better about seeing their own sort of page, their own logos, their own brand. You as partners might want to do your own because you can use this as a way to actually onboard and discover, to get into those discovery conversations. And in the spirit of what I was just saying a minute ago, it's less about Pega Blueprint, but more about what is this tool? Like, this is amazing. What else can it do? The other thing to note, and I just want to lead with this, when we have all these drop downs on here for application purpose and your vertical, I would say, feel free, encourage your clients to click through other verticals. I'm really proud of the work that my peers do in financial services, insurance, comms, and certainly healthcare. And they've got a lot of great IP out there that we can build on because it's not, at the end of the day, it's workflow automation. And the other big change that is coming in the evolution here is it's going to increasingly become more and more about what you see on the screen is the functional description, where it's less about the drop downs and it's more about filling in what is it that you need? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And Pega is just on its own starting to break down those barriers of, well, it's a piece of care management and it's a piece of collections, and we're going to use the Pega government platform data model, and we're all going to pull it together for a solution. So therefore, you're all not worrying about what capabilities are coming to bear, but what we're actually architecting via Blueprint for a solution. And that's actually directly feeding into some of the government PGP, Pega government platform work we're doing, is more tightly aligning, PGP to the Blueprint, meaning that the feature and functionality that we're going to be pulling up and you're going to be instantiating in a Blueprint itself is going to be more directly attributable to the features and functions that we have. So what does that look like when it comes down to you run a Blueprint with a GIS hook? We're going to be able to highlight that we have an out-of-the-box Google Maps and out-of-the-box Esri connector to do that. Oh, you use Esri, great. We can connect to that. We've got all those features and functions. So it's again much more an accelerated discovery tool. So I will kind of start bringing this together with what I'm seeing, again, I'm very lucky to have a team around the globe and speak to a lot of different partners around what they're seeing, a lot of clients around what's working, what they're up against. So I'll just kind of throw out what I see as the winning themes here. And excuse me, partners with access to clients and key decision makers are ever increasingly needing to show differentiated value. And I know that sounds like such an obvious statement, but the pressure to do that is really increasing. That's my observation. The need to show more and more to them is absolutely critical. And the reliance, even informally, on partners to actually bring innovation to government clients is increasing. I saw this a lot when we were in kind of the December, January timeframe of this year around Knowledge Buddy, and everyone had a chatbot, everyone had an LLM. What are we doing about it? And for the most part, we were feeding this to partners to take to clients in a way that they could, you all as the partners, could be using this as a hook to the next conversation. So that's one thing I see is the more that we're handing things to you in a differentiated way to hand to the clients, that's a winning win. Another obvious statement, but it is only increasing. Recompetes are everywhere. For whatever reason, this might just be what I'm seeing. It used to be the 7, 8, 10-year sort of recompetes. Boy, they seem to be happening all the time now. And the time that you have from win to deliver to add value before the recompetes tend to be getting squeezed. And it kind of goes to the bullet before this, like delivering something, some hook, building the brand and the reputation with those people to stay sticky is really important. This is really big for us, and I think more to come on this more specifically in the beginning part of 2025. But for those who have been around for a while, it used to be all about the intelligent business process management suite magic quadrant, and it was all about people saying, "Oh, I need IBPMS," and the self-identification. It's been sort of LCAP, the low code. It's been AI. It's kind of been all over the place. I'm really excited about the business orchestration automation MQ that's coming out, because there are places like this where we can more discreetly and specifically play. So as the landscape is moving, so are the analysts. They're still trying to figure it out. I'm really excited to watch how I think this is coming back to where the spotlight of what is Pega, where does it fit, especially for our enterprise architect friends, is coming right back towards Pega. And we're really able to handle these things at scale, complexity within these different MQs and waves. That risk factor as things move really quickly, I'm seeing people saying, okay, where have we done this? It's largely where, when we're up against Microsoft, it's largely because, look, I've got an enterprise agreement. I just got to go. They say they can do it. They deliver Office 365. Let's do that. It's the wrong way of thinking, but being able to disrupt that is really going to be key to us. And coming up with them to say, we've actually solved this for this customer. We've done, tax filing and processing for this customer. We've handled customer service for tens of thousands of desktop agents over here, rolling in with a disruptive point of view, but giving them the confidence we've solved their problem is going to be important to us. And then outside, delivering value outside of these big, huge programs, really important. So what does that mean? It means awesome. We have won this big body of work. We've got a lot of people. We are delivering value quickly. We've gone past waterfall. We're now giving sort of, your regular releases. That's great. But that used to feel amazing, that, was not a failed project. That's sort of table stakes now. Those days of, waiting forever to go live, that's not really as much a thing anymore. Things are going live because we've evolved. Now it's how are we going to go live and prepare for the next thing? Sort of what is the next, taxi off the line, the cab off the rank? What is the thing you can do that wasn't even in the contract that is the next trick? That's going to be really important, because that's how we're going to win the recompetes or help you win those big services recompetes. And all of this comes together with, you want to insource it, that's fine. You want to outsource it. A reliable thought leader is sticky. So being someone who is delivering that value, those new ideas, the features and functions, everything you're going to see in Blueprint, everything that's not, within the product that you can pull forward in Blueprint, and release notes and webinars like this that Randy runs, that's how you're going to be able to bring things to the client to stay sticky. And then finally, I will kind of, I think this is the last one here, is, so what are we doing about it? You know, I'm really proud of the growth that we've had over the last 10 years and more. I'm very, very proud of the work that we're doing in Spain and Germany and the UK and the US, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, Japan, Saudi Arabia. We have amazing clients. They love talking about us. They love doing videos. They're really proud of the work they're doing with us and with you. So we're going to be doing more of that. We're going to be more highlighting those public facing stories, because when it comes to proving that we can actually deliver on the promise that we're jointly making to our clients together, we have to have those proof points. So we're going to continue to do a lot of that. More of the government's building for change, more of those Pega World breakout sessions and main stages, the government empowered, all of those innovation days and things like that. We're also really making and hardening our planning and investment for, you know, what does it take to win and deploy and support in a government environment? You know, acknowledging that government is not a flavor of commercial, but government is a really distinct and unique, and if you're not part of it, probably a strange thing. Pega acknowledges that, and we're investing and organizing for that. You know, I point to some of the things that we've been doing around, you know, Pega Cloud for Government architecture, and certainly in the U.S., organizing and hiring Jen Pratt as a general manager that brings all of these functions together as an acknowledgement that, you know, you can't send different teams off to do different things. We have to be a cohesive single voice into the market. Accelerating releases. This is kind of what I was talking about in the architecture, that we have a real burning need to accelerate how we're actually doing things like FedRAMP certifications. How can we make this so that we're not N-1, but how are we investing day one, building all of those sorts of things so that we're ready? I spent a lot of time with Pega Government Platform talking about how we're going to make it, you know, along with our other products, just the core of the Gen AI blueprint. How do we use Gen AI as sort of that front door to innovation and ideation and discovery, and allow the products to seamlessly come together to start coexisting, co-deploy, and delivering value? Because think of this, if you're doing a blueprint that has PGP, care management, and collections, when we start talking who has done this, think about the proof points and the client stories that come with that. You know, what clients have used collections before, and who's on care management, and certainly our huge footprint of Pega Government Platform customers all are part of that conversation now.
You know,
Doing a lot of, yeah, go ahead.
that kind of brings up a question. You know, as you're talking about that, you're almost answering my question for me. But how is Blueprint changing Pega's product strategy, right? How it's integrating with Pega Government Platform and things like that. How is it affecting what we're putting out there?
Yeah, so some of that, Randy, is to be determined. You know, there's a strong recognition that it has been very positively disruptive in the market and with our own sort of point of view. And, you know, looking at using Blueprint, and I'll be careful from sort of a safe harbor point of view on our products, but, you know, the thinking is exactly what I was saying before, is how do we use Blueprint to start orchestrating and organizing all of these amazing industry and platform assets we have into something that is actually an outcome that we need. So it becomes less about, I'm going to buy care management, I'm going to buy collections, you know, and keep using the same examples, but it could be anything. And it becomes less about what are the features and functions and outcomes that each of these programs can support, or products can support, and pulling them together into a solution. So that's really where this is going. You know, it's going to take us a while to kind of work through this and pull it together. But what I'm excited for is Pega Government Platform is in a really, really good spot for this, because it is, in a lot of ways, a very well laid out and curated set of features and functionality that is right sort of thinly on top of the core platform, that Blueprint in, you know, microseconds can go out and grab all the things that it needs to then say, well, here's how PGP and the platform could do what that is. So bringing more of those applications into that scenario is what's going to happen.
Doug, and that sort of ties in then, you know, when you're talking about cheap PGP, it ties right into things like FedRAMP and, you know, what are we doing around FedRAMP, the compliance. I know, Amanda's doing all the work to get us to FedRAMP high and impact level 5, I think. And how does that relate also to things like cleared support?
Yeah, so there's a recognition that it's more than just putting things in a cloud. That's absolutely critical, but it's how do we support them? So things like having the separate government entity for the US operation is critical because as we staff into that and acknowledge that we have to have a separate knock and other things, we have all the infrastructure to do that on day one. We're ready to do that. So what happens is as we go live, as Amanda is getting us there, Amanda Barnes is getting us all there faster, working really tightly with the product and engineering and the cloud teams to make sure, again, sort of what you see at Pega World is available in the government clouds on day one. You're going to see acceleration around that because we have to go up that value chain to not then just go through a certification exercise, but acknowledge that being able to certify things quickly means that we have to have an awareness of that as we're kind of even just building user stories and epics.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug.
Yeah, so last couple of things here, and then I will blissfully put myself on mute for you all, is continuing enablement for clients and partners. We're coming up with a lot more academy missions around what's working, what's not, and how to think about PGP, how to think about other products. And look, I say again, I love the work that's happening in the other verticals. We love being the front door to any questions that you might have around what's going on in healthcare and financial services, insurance, comms. They all are approaching the market rightfully, understandably, slightly different. And there's a lot of good lessons learned there. So feel free to go through Academy and those other places to understand what's happening in different product approaches. And then finally, as I said before, really getting tight on our government messaging and marketing efforts and making sure that we're speaking to our government clients the way that they need to be spoken to, and an acknowledgement that it is, while things like digital engagement and Pega.com and email are very important, when we think about those three market motions, a lot of it is knowing those small handful of really key decision makers and making sure that we're speaking to them bespokely. That's sort of the difference. And that's how we're continuing to invest. So Randy, what did I miss? What can we do?
Well, I don't think you missed much, Doug, frankly. You talked a little bit about the three market approaches, and I'm curious, what did we do historically there? Is it different now? How do you see that?
Yeah, so it it's going to be an evolution because how we actually handle that is different to the market. In other words, how the team in Barcelona is going to go across those three motions is certainly going to be different than how we do it in maybe Sacramento. But what it means is we're going to acknowledge that it's not sort of a commercialized version of what this is, but it is going to require us to sort of organize that way. And I think we talked most about it across those three, Randy, but a lot of it is going to come to capture, where it's going to be a must-win deal. It's going to be, what does it mean to jointly invest and have a mutual understanding of those market motions. You're going to talk to this person, I'm going to talk to that. I'll make sure that you review our messaging before we send it out and put it on a billboard, whatever that is.
That's great. Speaking of billboards, and you talked a little bit about programs. Are we doing any marketing programs that we're going to run that people are going to see this year that are different than what we already talked about?
So a lot of that is still coming together. There's going to be very much a focus on very targeted approaches to these things. And what I mean is, for now, it is going to be wrapped around where we're jointly going to market together, those really large organizations. What does it actually mean to win there? So it's not going to be sort of the spray and pray. It is going to be targeted events, targeted sessions. So we think about innovation sessions and Pega World, Gov Empowered, things like that. So don't have any, don't have a slide to go through anything yet where you can say here, here, and here, but it is going to be a hardening of some of those in the field motions that we've been doing in these last 2 years.
Well, and let us not forget that it's just not ironic that you're here just a few weeks before our upcoming Government Empowered event.
Yes.
So let's
Very
make sure
coincidental.
that, yeah,
A-
that's
And I
coming
would
up soon.
also remind everyone, and not just because our good friends in the Pega World team are listening, but call for presentations are out. So we'd love to make sure that we are running a cycle there and doing everything we can to get those folks who want to speak out there. I mean, that truly is our superpower. It's why
Right.
I'm passionate about showing up at work for the last decade at Pega, is because we actually deliver stuff for clients and they love it so much they talk about us in ways that just no other company does. We get those great stories, and that's our push.
That's great. Hey, Doug, we got a question that came in. Are there any plans to bring government cloud outside of the US, say in Europe?
So absolutely, and right now that is largely done through the commercial cloud effort. So when you think about some of the EU certifications that are required, those are being handled through commercial. Um, you're going to see an announcement within the next few days, so I'll say within the week, of a staffing and organizational acknowledgement that we need to go deeper into understanding and investing in things outside of the US and the cloud area, and actually building a roadmap and timelines around those things so that we're not reacting to them, but in the spirit of mining workflows, building beachheads, and large scale capture, that we can commit to timelines and dates around some known compliance activities.
That sounds great. All right, Doug. So as we kind of reach the end of yet another Pega Partner Hour, I wanted to do something real quick and do today's tops takeaways. Maybe things that I heard that I hope everybody else heard. And here are the things I heard. You tell me if you heard them too. Um, the market motions are continued to be refined with new innovation and new markets. That's one thing that I think you probably should have heard Doug say today that I thought was important. Secondly, Blueprint is changing in the conversations. It's changing the conversations. It's more than just AI hype. And Doug and I kind of both talked about that for a number of different reasons. It really is a game changer right now, and it's turning things in a way that other companies just aren't doing yet. So it's something worth really putting some time into doing some blueprints if you haven't already. Pega.com/blueprint. It's free. It's easy. Do a couple of them so you understand it. So when you get in front of your clients, you understand it.
And Randy, let me just highlight that. Like, to me, and I speak for me here, it's not about doing a blueprint. It's getting comfortable using an amazing discovery tool to have conversations. So don't make it about Pega, about Blueprint. Use it as one amazing, probably the sharpest knife you've got in your drawer,
Right.
and get comfortable chopping with it because it's amazing.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Um, the third thing I heard, Doug, that I thought was really important is growth is coming in places where we're not necessarily leading with features and functions, but where we can drive a conversation. And in doing that with Blueprint, it opens up to a bunch of places. But that's really where the growth is going to come as we move forward.
That's right. That's right. And that's why partners are absolutely so critical, because we can't have a full conversation like that without a partner, without an understanding of how it's going to get done, who's going to be the subject matter experts, like how is it staffed, what is enablement. And we want to be a part of those conversations jointly together up front.
Yep. And then a big one, right? And it's important to everybody on this call. Pega is continuing to invest in government. This is a top priority for our company. This isn't, just the shed of Pega. This is the kitchen of Pega. This is where the resale value is. It's in the kitchen. And Pega is investing in government and in our partners and in our customers. So you're in the right place. You've got to reach out to us, reach out to your partners, your partner managers, reach out to your account executives, and we can set these meetings together so that we can continue to move forward because the business is there. We just got to go get it.
The only clarification I make there, Randy, is it's in my mind, it's the heated pool because it's the funnest place to be.
There you go. Even better. So Doug, as we close here, I often get asked by people how I got started in the business. And I think like most people, I went to college and got a finance degree, and then I became a policeman for 11 years. And I thought,
As one
you know,
does.
Yeah, as most do, right? That's a pretty normal way. And as normal and interesting as I always thought that was, um, we've had discussions and people don't know, but I've come to find out if maybe Doug, you'd tell people, what did you go to college for? How did you get here?
Oh. I was actually supposed to be a veterinarian. I was biology and chemistry major, and before that, I was originally going to the Cornell Agriculture School to be a beekeeper. But thanks for highlighting that, Randy.
As
James Lawless must have told you that one.
as people do,
As people do, as we keep bees, yes.
All right. Listen, I want to thank Doug. Thank you for taking the time out of a schedule that I don't even want to imagine how busy it is for you. Doug, it was a great job today.
Yeah.
I really
No, and
appreciate it.
Randy, thank you for running this, and thank you for partners giving us that honest feedback. This is a critical piece of business for Pega. It is the core of what I do day in, day out. So we want to hear what's working, what's not, and grow as fast as possible together. So thank you for making the time.
Great. So as we reach the end of another Pega Partner Hour, I wanted to remind you all that we're here on the second Friday of every month at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Next month on October 11th, we're going to feature Mr. Kenny Smith, who's going to guide us through Pega's upscaler strategy with AWS and Google. So please don't miss that episode. It's going to be great. And with that, I wish you all the best. I look forward to seeing you on October 11th for the next episode of the Pega Partner Hour. Until then, sell and be well. Thanks for joining. We look forward to seeing you next time.